Our next planet is quite the opposite. Now, we visit Venus. When the two planets are closest together, the fictional speed of warp 3 will get us there in only 3 seconds. And we can see how different Venus is. A radiant pearl in the sky. No wonder it was named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty. After the sun and moon, it's the brightest object in our sky. Though like Mercury, it sits between us and the sun, so we can only see it in the morning and evening. And like Mercury, it has no moons. But that is where the similarities end. It takes 224 of our days to orbit. However, a rotation takes even longer, 243 of our days, and it spins very slowly backwards. Venus would have a locked rotation, with one day being the same as a year, but it is forced backwards by the sun's gravity pulling on something that it shares with the Earth, an atmosphere. And the atmosphere is what makes Venus look so beautiful. But before you start thinking we could live there, you should know that this isn't our lovely, breathable nitrogen and oxygen atmosphere. This is a thick carbon dioxide atmosphere with clouds made out of sulfuric acid. If the acid rain wasn't enough to put you off, then you'd find that the atmosphere is so thick and dense that the surface pressure is 92 times greater than Earth's. That would be like diving 950 meters underwater. Military submarines only dive to around 900 meters. The atmosphere is so thick, we're not even looking at the planet's surface. Underneath all of this beauty is a volcanic surface hot enough to melt lead. Venus is the hottest planet of them all. It's heavenly on the outside and hellish underneath. Our next stop is one you will recognise. Earth, the only water world in the solar system. So much water, it covers 70% of the surface. It is the Earth's magnetic field that stops solar winds from stripping away our atmosphere, and our atmosphere captures heat from the sun, allowing steady temperatures and water to exist in a liquid state. The atmosphere also helps to protect us from UV rays which would harm us, and asteroids from crashing into us. The Earth was born some 4.5 billion years ago, along with the Sun. The oceans formed in the first billion, and life first grew in the oceans, the only known life in the universe. We have the densest of all the planets, and the largest of the terrestrial ones. Our orbit is slightly elliptical, so at times we are closer to the Sun, but not enough to notice. Our angle of rotation, however, is quite significant when compared to our orbit. This alters how much we are pointing towards the Sun at different times of the year, and this gives us our seasons, makes it warmer and colder, and the days longer and shorter. Of all the terrestrial planets, Earth has the most significant moon. In fact, it is the largest moon in relation to its planet. It is the 5th biggest overall and has the 2nd highest gravity. So much gravity that it pulls our water, causes the tides, and is very slowly reducing how fast we spin. No one knows for sure how it came to be our moon. It couldn't have formed at the same time because it is 50 million years younger than the Earth. It couldn't have been flung from the Earth because it doesn't contain the same matter, and it couldn't have been captured as it was passing by because our atmosphere would have had to have been too large. Our best guess is that we collided with another, very large object about the size of Mars. The result of this collision blasted bits into orbit around the Earth, and those bits eventually came together to become the Moon. The Moon has a very limited atmosphere, certainly not enough to protect it from the meteorites which we can see have hit it. Though we only ever see one side of the Moon from Earth because it is tidally locked. It takes 27 days to travel around the Earth, though because we've moved by the time it gets back to its original position, it has to go a bit further from our perspective and takes 29.5 days for a full lunar cycle. It has a slightly elliptical orbit and is 5 degrees off from going around our equator, so it seems to get bigger and twist around as we view it. Now it's time to visit the last of the terrestrial planets, Mars. Mars is about half again further away from the Sun than the Earth is. At its closest to us, it's somewhere in the region of 55 million kilometres away. Mars is a striking planet, visibly red and the only known example of a desert planet. But we're not looking at sand, it's basically rust. Both the ancient Greeks and Sumerians named the planet after a god of war, no doubt influenced by its colour, and the Romans followed suit with their god Mars. There are similarities between Mars and Earth. It has days of 24.5 hours, and its axial tilt is virtually the same. So Mars has seasons just like us. Though its year is almost twice as long, and whilst summer can reach temperatures of about 6 degrees C, its winters get down to -78. Strangest of the features we can see is known as the Martian dichotomy, with the northern hemisphere appearing smooth and flat, whilst the southern hemisphere is covered in peaks and valleys. We don't know why, but it's quite possible that a giant impact melted the southern hemisphere, and when it recrystallised, it formed with a thicker crust. Like Earth, Mars also has water, but it can only exist in the form of ice, and like Earth, that can be found at its north and south poles. There was once an atmosphere here, about 4 billion years ago, and if Mars hadn't lost its magnetic field, maybe there could have also been life. However, Mars is not without activity. As NASA puts it, the only planet we know of inhabited entirely by robots. Since 1979, numerous countries have been sending missions there. Up to the year 2024, 5 spacecraft have flown by it, and 21 missions have successfully managed to orbit around it. 7 of these are still operational. There have been 11 successful landings on Mars, and 3 of them are still functioning today, and for 3 years it even had a helicopter. Mars also has moons, 2 of them, though as major moons go, they're positively tiny. They're called Phobos and Deimos, named after the sons of the god Mars, and they're only a few kilometres across, not nearly enough for their gravities to form them into spherical shape. They're effectively large rocks. Phobos has the closest orbit of any known satellite, and its largest measurement is around 26 kilometres. Curiously, seeing that if you discover things, you get to name them, all of the craters discovered in 2006 are named after things from the book Gulliver's Travels. Deimos is even smaller, with the largest measurement of 16 kilometres and a gravity so low that if you stood on it and jumped off, you'd disappear into space. And that is the last of the terrestrial planets in the inner solar system